Okay, guys, we're actually going to take a step back here and go over some notes that we did a little while back. I actually had you do 2 sections at once. So I want you to pause it if you need to and go find 616 to 616 to 619 in your notebook on the lymphatic system. So I'm going to go over that with you right now, and if you need to pause it to make sure that you're highlighting and kind of keeping track of what you need, just a reminder that, this information will likely come up. We're going to have a project eventually, so you do want to make sure you're keeping good notes and taking a look at this carefully. So the lymphatic system is one system that we don't usually point out as one that, is kind of common, right? We all have it, but, we know about the digestive and the respiratory, but lymphatic is a little more mysterious to us. So as you read, it's a collection of organs and they collect fluid. It's a bunch of fluid in your body and return it to the blood for various reasons. And there's quite a bit to the lymphatic system that we're going to keep track of here. So first we need to talk about lymph. So this was a picture that your book had that I copy and pasted. So the lymph is the fluid that gets collected by the vessels. So think of like arteries and veins, but only these are the ones that we're talking about, which have to do with the fluid. So you can see there's blue veins and red arteries. And then within that, you see the yellow. Those are the lymphatic vessels. So think of your body and this highway system that's in it, and the yellow parts in this picture are going to be the lymphatic. So the white arrows in this picture kind of show you how that lymph moves, and it goes through the lymph capillaries and the vessels. So when we talk about a capillary, if you remember back to the circulatory system, they are just smaller vessels. So, the big umbrella is vessels, right? We have arteries and veins and lymph vessels. And then we have capillaries, which are kind of the smaller parts, just to make sure we're remembering that. So that's a good picture to take a look at. So we also have what are called parts of the lymphatic system. So we need to break them down a little bit. First, we have bone marrow. Now, this shouldn't be a mystery to us because we talked about bone marrow when we talked about the skeleton. We talked about the red and the yellow marrow. And we talked about spongy and compact bone and where marrow is in the spongy bone. So again, here we see, just to remind you, that the systems don't work by themselves. They are combined together and they work together. So there again, the red and white blood cells are formed, and that is considered part of the lymphatic system. We also have lymph nodes. You might have noticed those being kind of swollen sometimes if you're fighting off an infection or an illness in your neck. In your armpits. A lot of times your doctor will feel that area in your groin as well. Those are all areas where we have lymph nodes, and they're tiny bean-shaped masses of tissue, but they get inflamed if we're trying to fight something off because they fill with white blood cells, and that's your army against infection. So your body will make more white blood cells to fight the pathogen, whatever it is, the virus or the bacteria that your body is trying to get rid of. It's the army that we sort of make to fight it. So the lymphocytes there are what destroy pathogens. So the swollen and soreness is those extra white blood cells there. Then we have the thymus. If you were standing in front of me, I would point out the thymus. It's right kind of in the middle of your chest. And this is a really important organ that produces what we call T cells. I always think of thymus starts with the T. Those are T cells. They fight infection right behind the breastbone, and they travel, the lymphocytes that we were just talking about that get rid of those pathogens travel from here to the rest of the body. Then we have the spleen. You guys may have heard of the spleen before. So it's the largest lymphatic organ, even though it's not real big. It stores and produces those lymphocytes that are fighting those pathogens. And it's a really important organ that basically monitors and stores. It gets rid of the bad blood cells that aren't doing their job anymore. And it has that white and red pulp of the lymphatic system. Now, what are we talking about when we talk about the red and white pulp? Well, this is an actual microscope picture here of the red and white pulp that is in our spleen. So the red pulp on the right-hand side there removes the bad kind of red blood cells and stuff that aren't doing their job. It's kind of like the recycling center. It gets rid of the ones that aren't doing their jobs, the defective ones. The white pulp produces the white blood cells. Those are the ones that I mentioned earlier that are going to fight those infections off. So again, the white blood cells are really important because they're going to, be the army against the infection. So then we have tonsils. Some of you guys have had your tonsils removed, right? So we do use them. They are an important organ, but you don't have to have them. You can live without them. Sometimes they can be a little bit more troublesome and annoying in some of us. They can continually swell and kind of get in the way of swallowing and breathing and stuff like that. So we just remove them because they can become inflamed. But that is an area where they're protective too. They trap the pathogens, but they can kind of be a nuisance sometimes. So we remove them. But that's an area where in your mouth, you look on that picture, figure 4 there, they help protect your throat and lungs from infection. They trap the pathogens, but sometimes it can be more of an issue than a help. So we get rid of them sometimes. We have them taken out. There's a picture there of the lymphatic system on the left, figure 2. That area in your armpits there, in your groin, and in your neck, your throat, those are what I was talking about with the green little bubbles there. Those are your lymph nodes. Your thymus is kind of that brown part by your breastbone there. Your spleen is kind of the bean-shaped organ that's kind of the purpley brown color there in the person's body. So you can kind of see the different parts with the vessels that move all around. So again, I know I went through this kind of quickly. One of the things I want you to do is go back and highlight things, and also be thinking about any questions you have for me for when we meet up on Friday. Thanks for watching.